Yeah, man is right. That's Bob Dylan rocking out to Boogie Woogie Country Girl, a great, great tune written way back when by Mr. Doc Thomas. And we're playing that because there's we're going to get to it, but I mean, there's a great, great film called AKA Doc Thomas playing at the Stony Brook Film Festival this year. And there's tons of great films there, as usual. And we are lucky once again to have Film Festival Director, Stoller Center Director, Mr. Alan INKLES with us. Always a pleasure. Alan, how are you?
Finn, it's a pleasure to be here. It's usually the official beginning of the film festival when I go on your show. So it's time to get into that mode. I'm here.
That's right. And yeah, it's always a blast to see you, and always great to see what's coming up at the festival. And as usual, I mean, I say this every year, you've outdone yourself, but it's a spectacular list of films. First, let's talk about when the festival is starting.
Yep, opens up Thursday night, July 19th. It's 10 days. My staff knows that because they don't sleep for 10 full days. July 19th to the 28th, we have one film on opening night, and we close with, again, one film on closing night. But in between, I think we have a total of 33 films this year over 10 days.
Wow.
So it's and it's a really good mix this year. Really, you know, I'm always trying to put this together and trying to find the best films that are out there when I'm looking through the hundreds that come in between November and May, but I'm really excited about this year. I think we've got a really good mix and a good diversity of films from this country and abroad.
What's your opening film this year, Alan?
It's a third-time return of a director, Terry Green. He's had 3 films here. He's had Almost Salinas, a film about James Dean. Mm-hmm. Then he had a film called Heaven's Fall, which was about the Scottsboro case. And he loves histories. This year, Terry Green has directed. We have the world premiere, the first screening ever, of a film called No God, No Master, which is sort of loosely based around the Sacco and Vanzetti story back in the 1920s, 1920.
Sure.
And David Strathairn stars as Special Agent Flynn. And we're expecting him out. We're not sure he's filming a movie, so it's nip and tuck. But the great actor Ray Wise, who's been in about 100 films and tons of TV shows, who plays the Attorney General Palmer, he'll definitely be out. He's already coming in tomorrow night, getting ready for Thursday's opening. So it's a real good period piece, beautifully shot, big budget for an independent film, great filmmaker. As I said, it's his 4th feature film, his 3rd one that we're having here at the festival. And it's a big world premiere of No God, No Master on Thursday night. That's
very exciting. And David Strathairn, of course, you know, famous in my circles anyway for playing Edward R. Murrow in the film Murrow. Absolutely great. Not Murrow. What was the name of the film?
Good Night and Good Luck. Good Night and Good Luck. He's a great actor. And he was actually out here when we had Heaven's Fall about 5 years ago.
Right.
He came out. He lives up in Woodstock and I guess spent some time in California, as they all have to do. But he's a great guy, great person, and is desperately trying to get out here. He's shooting, I think, 3 movies basically at the moment. He's probably been in 150 films, the Bourne films he's been in, and he's really trying to get back out here for it. We hope to have him for Thursday night.
Oh, that'll be very exciting. It looks like a beautiful thing. And what time's the premiere for those?
That film's at 8 o'clock. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's no more advance sale for that film. Mm-hmm. But if you want to get in, we have a big theater, and we just don't like to oversell because we have passes sold and individual movie tickets. So definitely, if you want to get to the film, get there by 7 o'clock, get online. I'm sure we'll have tickets to get a lot of people in last minute. But the advance sale for that film is sold out. But we might be able to give a couple away tonight if we feel excited enough later, and we still leave some time. I'll offer some giveaways to your listeners.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, that's and you remember the days, right? The days when we used to be trying to please fill the theater, and now it's packed out. It's such a great thing, the Stony Brook Film Festival.
I go back.
It's wonderful.
When the first couple of years, this is the 17th year. I remember the second year of the festival, or first year we really called it a festival. I sat in the theater for a film called Rhythm Thief. It was an independent film from a Long Island filmmaker. And it was a Saturday afternoon. I've learned my lesson about 11 o'clock screenings on Saturday afternoon in July. And the director, myself, and Newsday film critic at that time, who's now a Variety film critic and LA Times critic, John Anderson, were the audience for that screening in a 1,000-seat theater. And I swore I wouldn't bring John back again until we filled the house. And now John comes and hosts our closing night award ceremony, and we have 1,000 people. So we've come a long way in 17 years, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's so great to see this, that the whole community has gotten turned on to this and all your work. It's great. Okay, let's go over. What do you think the highlight is on Friday? Friday looks like another outstanding thing.
You talked about Doc Thomas, which we'll get to, I'm sure, for Monday night. Doc's one of the 4 documentaries we have this year. doc is one of the 4 docs we have this year. And I love a good documentary. The problem when you have a 1,000-seat theater and a big screen and a broad audience, you need to find documentaries that really speak to more than just a handful of people. And I was delighted that this year we've gotten a handful, and they're very, very topical, too. I mean, the film on Friday night, that's a real highlight. It's a great Argentinian comedy later in the evening, but at 7 o'clock we have a film called Behind the Orange Curtain. And again, another alum of Stony Brook's Film Festival. We actually have an alum of Stony Brook coming I'll get to later, too. But on Friday night, Brent Huff, it's his 3rd film at the festival, too. He had a film called The 100-Mile Rule. And he had Cat City. This is his 3rd film in 12 years at the film festival.
I saw Cat City. That was a great film.
Fun film, and his wife starred in it too.
Yeah.
He sent me this film in March, in February, late February. He emailed me and said, "I'm finishing up a documentary. It's very powerful. It's very personal. It's about these young people and older too, but mostly about these young people in California who've gone to their friend's house and their rich friends' parents' medicine cabinets and have overdosed on their over-the-counter drugs, and some have died, some have been paralyzed." And he said it's a real epidemic. I said, not just in Orange County. Here we are 6 months later. I'm thinking of Medford and everything that's gone on here.
Sure.
Back in February when I got the email, I said, "Send me the rough copy. I want to look at it." Well, it blew me away, and I haven't even seen the finished product, which premiered at Newport Beach about a month and a half ago with a second screening. It's the East Coast premiere of it. This film is hard to watch. It's very powerful. It's made by a filmmaker who's made narrative films, and it plays like a very solid narrative. And obviously, it's a documentary. You've got parents on, talking about their kids, and it's not just about the drugs and legal drugs and illegal drugs and alcohol. It's also about the fact that California doesn't have a law that New York has, where if you call in a friend of yours who's overdosed on drugs and you're high, you can get arrested in California. And there's one guy who talks about his son who was left on the side of the road because his friend didn't want to call it in. By the time the police got to him, his son had died. Mary Bono Mack, who's the congresswoman in California, is very much behind this film. She's actually in the film, is one of the ones talking about it. So it's a real social media film on Friday night, and it plays like a really very powerful narrative film, and yet it's a very strong doc. So my long answer once again, as always, but it's that's clearly a pretty powerful film, and it's certainly the highlight of Friday night. If you're coming to one film on Friday, and you don't want to laugh and have a good time, which is the late film, my First Wedding, it's a fun comedy. The 7 o'clock film is a powerful, hard-hitting documentary.
And of course, that's always a great thing that you do over there is the way the schedules are laid out. Everything is beautifully paced for an evening of so if you want to stay for 2 films,
absolutely, it's
wonderfully paced. It's not like it's the same thing one after the other. It's always a mix-up, but generally I always find somehow related in between.
Yeah, we try, and even the short, we do a lot of the films have shorts. I didn't put a short with those. The Behind the Orange Curtain, because there was just nothing that could possibly make sense of playing before that. Plus there'll be a lot of people involved with the film. The director will be here. We're hoping Mary Bono Mack will be here, the congresswoman. Mm-hmm. So we expect a lot of people and there's a lot of issues to talk about after the film, not just the film itself. So we didn't put a short there. The Russian Elephant in the Room is a 15-minute short, which is sort of a very interesting, dramatic, sweet film that, in my mind, kind of can help bridge the gap to this very funny comedy afterwards. So yeah, my team and I really spend the time after the films have been chosen to try and make the night. Not that we're trying to be manipulative of our audience, but you don't want to put too heavy. Let's poke our eyes out. Dramas in the night. So we try what we can to make the evening a full evening. So if you're coming to both, and some people come to one movie or the other, but a lot of our loyal audience members, our 800 pass holders, will come to everything. And I know I don't want them walking out at midnight feeling like make sure there's no sharp objects in the room with them when they get home. So or that they've just laughed their behinds off and haven't had a chance to, we try and be enlightening and entertaining in the evening if we can. That's the goal.
A noble goal. Saturday evening.
Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday, it's the whole day. We begin at 4 o'clock. We have this film, Guilty, which is another powerful film about, based on a true story in France about a couple unjustly accused of pedophilia. Again, here's another topical thing in the news these days, obviously, but a very powerful, hard-hitting film based on a true story, and tremendously well acted. The guy who's the lead French actor in this film, is unbelievable, and it's a great, powerful film in the afternoon. And then going into the evening at 7 o'clock, we have a delightful romantic comedy, Shanghai Calling. We've got Daniel Henney in it. Elijah Coop, who's in, is it Happy Endings? I think Happy Endings she's in right now, and was on Scrubs. Very recognizable face. She's coming out for the screening from L.A. She stars in this really charming comedy about a guy who is Asian American. Daniel Henney was in Wolverine and some other films. His company sends him to China for Chinese relations because he's Chinese, and yet the guy doesn't speak one word of Chinese and is about as Chinese as I am, Finn. So it's sort of a very kind of culture clash and a very funny comedy. The 9:30 film is brilliant. It's a film called Shuffle. It's in black and white. The closest thing I could say, it reminds me of Memento. You know, the guy wakes up every day at a different age. It's got the kind of Memento feel to it, of it sort of what's reality, what's not reality. Are we going backwards in time, forwards in time? But the actor, is it J.J. Time, I think, is in it. Wonderful actor, is the lead actor. T.J. Time, right. T.J. Time. We've been in a bunch of things, too. He won't be coming out. He's filming in L.A. at the moment. But he's brilliant in the film. And the director who also did For Zachary, Kurt Kuhn, he did the music for it, he directed it, he produced it, starred in it, did everything but act in this film. Real brilliant dramatic film, and that's the 9:30 film on Saturday. So that's sort of the mix on Saturday night. And
then Sunday you have After the Silence, which looks absolutely great.
Brilliant doc. Again, another based on a true, it is a true story. I mean, here's a woman whose husband was working to save the peace, an Israeli man who spent his life trying to, bring relations between Israel and Palestine, and he's killed by a suicide bomber. And instead of her, being angry, which she was early on, some years pass, and she decides she wants to meet the family of this young Palestinian man who blew up her husband and himself at the same time.
Wow.
And it's powerful. She's told by the family, don't come. We don't want you here. And against all odds, she goes and does it. And it's a moving story, about this woman who's trying to do what her husband probably would have wanted to do, meet the family, and the family didn't know what the son was up to that day. So it's,
wow.
It tells both sides of the street, certainly. Interesting story. Again, very heavy film on that night. And then later in the evening, we've got a very funny film. Marcia Monroe, who's also done a bunch of things. She's been in, I guess she's on the episodes with Matt LeBlanc. She's on right now.
Okay.
Beautiful actress. She stars in this film, 3 Days of Normal. Later, that's the late film that night. The early film is Wunderkinder, also a film about another powerful film about the Holocaust, about a young children who have to play to keep their family alive. These kind of very powerful young violinists and pianists, and in order to save their family, the Germans want them to play for them. So again, a nice mix on Sunday with narratives and documentaries.
And then we come to Monday, which is an absolute film.
Right?
I am looking forward to extremely, a.k.a. Doc Pomus, which I think is on at 7 p.m. on Monday.
Yeah. And that's the first screening in America. They've played in Canada. It's a Canadian Peter Miller who directed and produced the film. He also co-wrote it also. He gave us a film a couple years ago called Jews in Baseball, which has been playing on PBS. It's been on all the time now. Every time I turn on the TV, it's on. We had the premiere of that film, too. It's the first screening in America of a film about a guy who, once I heard the name, I realized who it was, but it wasn't a household name to me, and probably to a lot of people. But this guy's written, over 100 of the most well-known songs back in the 60s and 70s, and hung out with Lennon and Dylan. You played one of his songs. He did This Magic Moment, Love Me Tender, Teenager in Love. I mean, you name it.
And Viva Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas. There you go. Him and Elvis were hanging out back in those days, too.
Right.
And this guy was, born, crippled. Amazing story about this guy. Born, wanted to sing the blues and play the blues and write the blues. And great story. His daughter, Sharon Felder, co-produced the film. And she grew up on Long Island. The family moved to Lynbrook back when they were growing up. I know this because I watched the movie. It tells that. And she's, kind of the inspiration for the film. And she lives out in the East End. And she'll be here that night along with the director.
Oh, that's exciting. That's
it's just a great story. Another one that's a worldly film. You feel like when you've learned something about a guy who against all odds,
Right.
just, kept on writing. And he's had his lulls, and he's in the film. There's some clips of him, obviously,
Sure.
before he passed away. His ex-wife's in it, and Sharon's in it, and some of the heavy hitters are in it. For some of the great songwriters and great singers, clips when he was alive, and some narratives about his life.
Yeah, sure. An absolutely amazing catalog Doc Pomus wrote, as listeners to the show know, because we play different versions, and I have to tell you, the songs hold up over the years, even the older versions. But I mean, new versions are always being done. The catalog's always being covered, and just one of my favorite songwriters.
Great story.
Yeah. Followed up by Hotel Lux that evening.
Yeah, kind of a interesting film. It's got a kind of producer's feel to it. It's these two sort of comedians that do a Stalin, Hitler, routine. And then he's thrust into, by accident, Stalin thinks he's his astrologer. And it's just a comedy. It's a German film in German. And it's just a really out there, interesting film. Great, dark comedy.
Yeah, that looks absolutely great.
Yeah, it's just one of these films you just got to show, because it's never going to play in this country, because it's just no one's going to take a chance on this film. If Sony Classics pass on a foreign language film and they can't buy everything, if you're lucky, you might find it on Netflix if you get lucky down the line. But the truth is, a lot of these films over the years, these foreign films, and we do a lot of them. We have some great contacts in Europe that we've made over the years, and we get these films that we're never going to get to play in America. So the only chance you're probably going to get to see Hotel Lux ever, because it might go on Amazon in Europe, and you don't have a foreign DVD player to play it. Right. Most people, you're never going to get to see it. So you want to see Hotel Lux, a very wacky, dark comedy from Germany. Got to see it at the festival.
Yeah, and Alan may recommend certain nights over others, but I'm telling you, Monday night is my
That's
recommendation.
It. Good combination.
Double header that night. Yeah. Great night. Tuesday, Alan.
Tuesday. Well, I got to do Dutch films. I've got my love affair with the Dutch. I've just become, we've had at least one Dutch film in the last 8 or 9 years of the festival. I've found some good friends in the Netherlands who like to give me their premieres. We actually have 2 Dutch films, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday night. A Time to Spare features an actress whose work has been at the festival. We keep trying to get her out, but now she had a baby, so every year she's got an excuse. We can't get her out. She's a wonderful, very famous Dutch actress, Carina Smulders, who starred in a film we had a couple of years ago. Last year she was in a film Don't Touch My Children. The year before she was in Bride Flight, which was part of our double Dutch opening night we had 2 years ago. She's a wonderful actress, and she plays a woman dying of cancer. But it's, again, a dark comedy. Her brother is a very outwardly gay man who is trying to, get a guy out of the closet. And so you've got this fun stuff going on in the background about his romance, and and in the background is this wonderful young woman who is, dying of cancer, and she plays the role tremendously well. And it's a really touching and very poignant story on Tuesday night from the Dutch. And then later that we have a Western. We have, I think, our first Western of the festival, certainly in several years, called Heathens and Thieves. Really well-made independent film, made on a small. When you talk to the filmmaker, they even say in their press notes, we didn't want to make a Western, but we figured, it's probably cheap to make because you just need horses and grass out there. But they've really put together, kind of a turn of the century Civil War. Really well-made Western, really well-acted, well-directed. Great story about these 2, cowboys that kind of fall upon this ranch where this Chinese couple is living, and apparently they've got gold, and who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, and there's a menacing performance by Don Swayze, who I don't know if most people know that Patrick had a younger brother and has a younger brother, and he is very eerily looking and acts like his brother, and he's a brilliant actor. I mean, I've seen him in a couple of things. He's done some TV series. He's been in a couple of soaps, and he's been in a few films. But he is amazing in this film as a sort of good guy, bad guy. You're not quite sure. I'm not going to give it away. You got to come see the film. But he is really harrowing in this film, and he gives a tremendous performance in Heathens and Thieves. And he will be out here. The whole cast. I think we got 15 people flying out from L.A. from the director, producer, the cast, and it's the East Coast premiere of this film, and they're all coming out for that film.
Oh, very exciting. Very nice. Wednesday, my favorite film looks like, to me, will be the second one. But tell me about the first one, Tape.
Yeah,
Tape looks really interesting.
It's my other Dutch film, and it's another actor. The actor in this film, marriotts, another famous Dutch actor, starred in the other half of the double Dutch opening we had 2 years ago. I think there's like 12 actors in the Netherlands. They're in every film. I think that's how it works. I seem to have the same ones. But he starred in the movie The Storm, which was our opening night film a couple of years ago, and he's another wonderful actor. And this is another really good film. You've sort of seen this story before, but I don't think as well made as this. It's a couple that go off on a vacation set up by their daughter to try and rekindle their marriage. As you see throughout the first 20 minutes, is really in trouble. And what sort of brings them back together is they're videotaping, and they videotape a murder by a policeman of a guy in Buenos Aires. And when you're in Buenos Aires and you're foreigners, and you've got a cop on tape, and you're trying to get to the police to give them a tape, you don't know who the good guys and who the bad guys are. So it's a really very powerful thriller of this couple trying to get out of there alive because the cop sees him with the video camera, and they're trying to run for their lives. And in that time period, the problems in their marriage sort of become minor, and staying alive becomes major. And it's a really well-made narrative film from the Netherlands. Yeah,
sort of echoes of everything from Blow Up to modern day stuff, of everything being filmed. Yeah.
So good film. That's the early film. The late film is a really very nice, very sweet, slow-paced French film about a young woman who's pregnant, young girl, and has to deal with what to do with the baby. From the very beginning, she wants to give it up, and I think we go through her life and what a young woman. It's a very civil film. It's a very well made, and as the French make them, it's at their own pace. But I think to me, it's you've seen these sort of films before, but not told as, I think, as tasteful and as from a point of view of the young woman. So it brings up a lot of issues, about pregnancy and about abortion and about being a mother and not being a mother, and choices. And I think it's very well made. And I actually saw some clips of this one, and it's the pacing of it is really interesting. In the clips I saw. Yeah, it's a film that's not gonna, again, it's not gonna get picked up in America by a distributor, right, because it's not a film that's going to, it's not a formula thing. But it's a kind of film that, we'll get to play here. And I can tell you, it probably won't be seen anywhere else other than here. I don't think you'll find this on DVD in America, because it's just not enough. It's not got enough broader audience outside of a festival that's willing to take a chance on a film like that, which is us. So right, and that's once again the great thing about the Stony Brook Film Festival. In addition to seeing premieres and things you might wind up seeing somewhere else, you're going to see a whole bunch of films you're not going to see anywhere else. It's certainly not on a big screen, which to me, as you know, I always give away tickets to all kinds of movies. And, that big screen thing, there's nothing like actually going to the movies. And the Stoller Center is just an exceptional venue to see and hear anything. And it's just a great place to see a film. Thursday evening. We're going through it. I'm so worn out by the time I'm done. It's good. I'm sorry. I love it. It's good practice for you. It's good because then I can remember what movies I picked. I forgot. I only watched 800, so now, right, these are the ones we chose. Right. Another nice mix again. Thursday night is we've got a German film and we got a Belgian film. The German film is kind of a sweet coming-of-age film. These two sisters on the eve of the Berlin Wall coming down. They're East German rowers. And they're going to a sort of a boot camp to get ready for the Olympics. And, they sort of fall for these West German men, and it's sort of hidden love. And the question is, will they stay in East Germany and do their thing, or will they, or at least one of them, decide to go off with this West German and sort of leave her country at that time? And it's right, again, on the eve of the Berlin Wall coming down, so it's a tense film, but really well told, and a nice sort of, if you like the kind of romantic films and really well made dramatic film, this is for you. So those romantics at heart, this is the film for you that night. And the later film, it's funny, I must have had 7 or 8 films that came in about African immigration or Africans trying to flee their country, and this was the best of all of them. And it really, because it takes that as a backdrop. This guy him and his son survived this awful trip over from Africa to Europe on a boat with hundreds of people, and they're washed across on a beach, and the young boy, finds a hotel where his father tells him to go to, wait for me. And it's a touching story about this father and son hopefully being reunited. I'm not going to say if it happens. You'll have to wait and see the film. But in the midst of that, in this hotel, it's just everything is going on in this hotel, from adultery to a mother trying to reunite with the daughter who's a maid there. It's just, a dark film, and it's got some humor in it, and it's just a really well-made film about this father and son trying to reunite as the background. But for the hour and a half of the film, it's really about this hotel swoony somewhere in Europe, which is sort of where, it's undescript of where this hotel exists. But it's just a real dramatic film with some humor in it, too. But make no mistake, it's got some drama in it, too, as well.
Now, the last evening, I should say, of full film is, besides the closing night, is Friday. And tell us about Side by Side.
Yeah, well, Side by Side is sort of what's going on in the film business right now, and it's got a lot going for it. I found out about this film from Sam Kornhauser, who is our former football coach here at Stony Brook. Sure. And Sam now is a great fundraiser for the development team, and just a great guy. I mean, Sam I adore. Sam's, he lives and breathes Seawolves.
Yes. And
Sam dropped me a note and said, I don't know if you heard about this film, Side by Side. And I had heard about it because I knew it was playing at Tribeca, which was, in May when we were just about ready to, to lock in the final titles. And he said, well, the guy who's the DP, the director of photography of the film, is Chris Cassidy. He's a former football player for me. He was a former Stony Brook alum, Stony Brook graduate. So we reached out to Chris, and Chris Keneally is the director of the film, and Keanu Reeves produced it and narrates the film. I said, can you send me a screener? And they sent it to me, and it really is about what's going on in the film industry right now. It's about, it's about George Lucas, who's in the film, along with Scorsese and Spielberg. I mean, all these filmmakers are talking about the fact that, we don't shoot on film anymore. I mean, it just doesn't exist. There's a couple that still do, but Lucas, 25 years ago was saying, it's all going to be digital, the digital age with Star Wars and all of that. And I would say half of what we're showing this summer is not on film. It's on digital, whether it be Blu-ray or Digibet or Beta SP. And in 2 months, we will join the ranks of 95% of the film theaters out there today, and we will be digital cinema projection, will be DCP. All the films will come in on a hard drive. It's a lot more convenient and a lot easier and a lot less expensive than making these, 2-ton, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but these, the 2,000 feet of film print.
Yeah, big reels.
So, and that's really, this film is about the new digital age. It's out there, and it's talking about all these filmmakers, and it shows clips of films like Melancholia, which was a brilliant film, which we showed in the spring, all shot digitally, talking to filmmakers who are doing it right now, to filmmakers who will hold outs to the end. And we'll have Chris Cassidy, the DP, will be here, and Chris Keneally, the director, will be here. We're trying to get Keanu out here, but we'll see. There was no commitment that he's coming. I keep saying, Keanu, he's in L.A., he's filming. But we're delighted. And the fact that, Chris Cassidy is the DP of a film that's all about digital photography is amazing. So to have him with the Q&A is great. We'll have a little party before the big homecoming. I think a bunch of the football players from that era are going to come out. I think he played back in the early 80s. A little older than I am, a little younger than I am. So he's coming out.
That's exciting. That's great.
So
Plus, it's like a homecoming, so it's nice.
And the late film is, this is what gets me also. I mean, Julie Delpy, who I think is great.
I think she's fantastic.
And I just watched her new film, which is opening in August, with Chris Rock. She's got a film called 2 Days in New York.
Yeah, actually, we saw that. My wife and I saw that in Paris in April.
Great film, right?
Great film.
And it's funny. This film rivals all of her films. I mean, she stars in it and directs it. What else is new?
Yeah.
But she can do it. I mean, a lot of filmmakers who do that don't get away with it. Not just Stallone. I mean, there's other. He can do whatever he wants to do. But the reality is that she's brilliant. She fits in, and this is probably of all of her films. I think, this one, she's really one of the real ensemble. It's about 15 actors in it, plus kids. It's this family getting together on the eve of the Skylab piece that everyone expects to fall in France, right, where they're having their picnic. So that's the backdrop of the piece of the Skylab.
1979.
Right.
Right.
So they're all expecting this to land, but that's the backdrop for the fact, I mean, talk about a wacky family from... you name it, it's going on, from politics to sex to no sex to, from brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles. And it is just a nonstop, biting dark comedy that she's written and directed and stars in, and I don't know if it's going to get an American release. We're going to have the East Coast premiere to play at a couple of festivals in L.A. I think the fact that she's got a film that's about to open up in a couple of weeks in New York is going to overshadow this. It will probably, hopefully, end up in some way to be seen in America, but it may not. And I think it's one of her best films. I think 2 Days in New York is delightful and funny, but I think this film's as good as that. And that film's going to get a release by Magnolia. I think it's on demand right now, and I think it opens up in a few weeks. And we'll show it in the fall, by the way. We'll have 2 Days in New York on our fall film series. But this film on Friday night is just a brilliant film. We're trying to get her. She's impossible because she's so busy.
Sure.
She's trying to get back into New York for the opening of 2 Days in New York, which is right after this. There's an outside chance she gets back in time, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So we'd love it if she does, but I'm not expecting her to be here for that.
I also understand she actually, just on a brief aside for Julie there, she's actually started the pre-production work for the film about Joe Strummer of The Clash, which is called The Right Profile. And that's another exciting project that I'm only hoping turns out great. And
maybe we'll get to show it. We'll see.
More power. I'll introduce it for you when
there
it's
you go. That's it.
Okay, Saturday night, the final night of the fest.
Yeah, we have a bonus film for pass holders, and the reason, it's always a nice thing because the pass holders. I say it all along, and I realize if you can't make a bunch of films, I get it, but. We charge $80 for a pass, not to get into the sales mode, but I pay $1,000 for that at Sundance. So if you're really thinking of getting to some films, and a couple already are sold out, so if you really want to get to a bunch of films, and look, I'll tell you, I can sneak this on the air because you guys are my friends. If you can't make it one night, hand it to somebody else. Look, I could use the money, so I'd like your friends to buy passes too. But if you're worried about not coming every night, give it to your brother or sister, cousin. Let them use it. It's a steal. It's a great way to see the film. So the only way you can get to the short film, and the reason why it's a pass holder bonus is it's a special film that Cannon commissioned with Ron Howard. It's actually been on YouTube a bit, or you can get on cable, but it's now you can't see it now. It's off the air, but it had a short sort of underground release, but it's a film called When You Find Me. And Ronnie Howard with Cannon, the Cannon Company, commissioned these people to send in these photos. They picked the 8 best photos. And then his daughter, Bryce Howard, took these 8 photos and turned it into a 28-minute film. A 20-minute film. I think we've got the film itself, because we've got it, it's 20 minutes, then there's an 8-minute making of we have going on with it also. Okay. And it's a beautiful short film that she directed, and it was sort of put together by Cannon and Ron Howard, who helped pick the film. But because it's made that way, we can't charge a ticket for the film. So the way we put it in is we're making it a pass holder bonus. So we sort of got around that. So the only way you can see this wonderful short film is buy a pass or sneak in somehow. I don't know. Get past the rushers. Paul Newland runs our house, and Paul's one of your jocks. So
that's right.
If you say WUSB, you might be able to get through Paul. Although Paul's got a team that runs it. So that's sort of the 7:15 film that night. The closing night film is a really charming, wonderful dramatic comedy that stars Melanie Laurent, who was in Inglourious Bastards and in The Concert. And it just kind of blew me away, and I really wanted it for closing night, because you want to have a film on closing night that you remember. And she plays this, radiologist, or radio X-ray technician who sort of does radio X-ray art. She sort of takes these X-rays and she makes art out of it, and including some of her patients and her boyfriends, which is sort of interesting. Talking about seeing right through me, or seeing the inside of people. But that's sort of the background for the fact that her and her sister, she's not gotten married, and her sister's been trying to have a baby, and her father, who's, well on to his, 60s or 70 years old, is got a new wife, and she's pregnant. And that's interesting news for the sister who's been trying to have a baby, and Melanie Laurent, who has not seen eye to eye with her father over the years. And it's sort of a nice story about, the father and, their relationship. It's a really well-made dramatic comedy. And that sort of gives a nice kind of feel to close.
Looks absolutely great. Now, I know, Alan, we've talked about, and we're talking to Alan INKLES about the Stony Brook Film Festival right here, which starts this week on the 19th, Thursday evening, and runs through the 28th. And it's a great, great thing right here on the campus of Stony Brook University at the Stoller Center. Alan, just briefly, and we've talked about this before on the air, but just in case someone hasn't heard it before, when do you obviously you get submissions for the festival. When do the submissions start to come in, and how long does it take how many do you get, and how do you whittle it down?
Yeah, It starts sometimes, the day after the festival closes. We don't encourage it. I don't encourage it. I don't really like to. I love watching movies, but August I try and get ready for our live season, which we've got a ton of things. We're actually producing a play this year. We're actually doing for the first time. We're actually producing a 2-week run of a Sarah Rule play in the fall at the Stala Center.
Oh, that's exciting.
So we've got a lot to talk about. We'll get back on the air and talk about our live season. As people say to me during the film festival, "Oh, you do live shows too?" I said, "Yeah, we do 300 of those throughout the year too." Right. This is sort of our 10-day hiatus from doing live shows. But they really start coming in. We start seriously advertising and requesting films the first of the year. So I may get 2-3 dozen films in between August and November, December, but between January and May, probably get between 500 and 600 official entries. And then I will also look at between 200 and 300 online submissions. We get a lot of my distributors and sales agents in Europe will send me, between Vimeo and YouTube and there's all these protected sites. Now no one wants to send screeners anymore, which is probably a good thing, but it means I'm now tied to a computer screen on top of my TV screen. So probably I would say between January 1st and May 1st, I probably looked at between 600 and 800 total shorts and features. Now, did I watch every minute of them? Of course not. I mean, I probably saw 300 full films between features and shorts all the way through 300-400. There's maybe another couple hundred I saw half of, and before I realized that it wasn't right for us or it wasn't good enough. Right. And there's probably a couple hundred films that just 10 minutes in, I didn't charge an entry fee and didn't feel guilty about telling this person on my own mind, you may think you're a filmmaker, but you're not. Maybe there's hope for you at film school, or maybe not also. But, that's the problem with digital filmmaking today. Everybody who's got a camera can be a filmmaker. And,
same thing in the recording business.
And God bless them, that's great. But, we've got a 40-foot screen in a 1,000-seat theater, and this is not the place to try and get your feet wet. There are a lot of places, and I recommend that. I mean, there are a filmmaker who I think's got a good film or a good potential. I'll drop a note to the filmmaker and say, listen, there's the Long Island Film Expo, which is a smaller venue that might have more, especially if you're a Long Island filmmaker. Or there's other grassroots film festivals out there. We're not that. I mean, we're too big a venue. We've become a place where, people come to expect a really well-made film because on that screen it's not very forgiving. So we've become a festival that, while I love underground films and we got a few of those, certainly some of the shorts that might be experimental or more earthy. It's not fair to the filmmaker or to our audience to put a film in that's not quite ready for prime time, as they say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'd say between January and May, between 500 and 800 films, between what gets sent in and what I watch online.
Wow. Now let me ask you a question I haven't asked you before, which is you're obviously a big film buff, and you're a very busy guy. You're running the Stala Center. You're looking at all these movies. Do you ever get out to the movies yourself to see a movie unrelated to all of this?
It's a good question. I do try and get out. And the problem is, it's a problem of being in the business. If I want to film, I get it. The thing is, if I want to see something, they'll send it to me. And I have to refrain from doing that because you do want to try and get out into a theater and see a film with an audience, and also on a screen that's larger than your iPad or that. So I do, not a lot. I mean, if I have a free night, I'm typically going into New York to look at a show that I want to bring in. I'm going to look at artists that we want to bring into our season. So my good friend Phil Solomon in Port Jeff, is always saying, get out to my theater. And I always say, get out to my festival. So I occasionally get out and see a film there too, but it's not very frequent. I mean, because the truth is, I'm looking at a film that I want to show. The distributors will normally send it to me to look at, and I watch it at 3 a.m, which is really the time that I really have free to look at a film. Typically these days.
Wow, what a life, Alan! And also, just not that everybody needs to know this, but congratulations on your 30th wedding anniversary.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm sorry I missed your big show in the Stala Center. I know we
now we know it's the same day, so I can always shoot you an email.
That's it. I actually got married on my wife's birthday, so it's a double whammy. So I had a birthday and anniversary.
You got it all. Alan, is there any chance we might be able to give away some tickets to something?
Absolutely. As I said, there's still passes available to the festival, but I know opening night is sold out. So if you'd like, why don't we give away a couple of tickets for opening night? The only way you can get in and get a ticket in advance is by calling this station tonight.
All right, a pair of tickets for opening night. And the film is No God, No Master with David Strathairn. who's brilliant, and some people from the film will be there, right?
Definitely Ray Wise will be there. I mean, there's probably 8 or 9 actors in the film who may not be as recognizable names, but the faces you'll know. Ray Wise, certainly one of them, will definitely be there. The director will be there, producer, the composer, Nino Malo, who's done an amazing job with this film, will be there. So there'll be a lot of people with the film. I just don't want to commit David Strathairn, who I know wants to be there, and he probably will make it. But I learned over the years when an actor tells me I'm going to try and make it but can't guarantee, not to tell people. Because someone will come up to me inevitably on Thursday night and say, I was told he was going to be here. So he's a bonus if he shows up.
Excellent. So this Thursday evening, opening night for the Stony Brook Film Festival, No God, No Master, a pair of tickets for opening night, which is always an exciting evening over at the festival, right here at the Stoller Center on the campus, 8 p.m. showing. I suggest you get there a little early, get yourself a good seat. 631-632-6901 gets you a pair of tickets to see No God, No Master this Thursday evening for the opening night of the Stony Brook Film Festival. And Alan, once again, the website for the Stony Brook Film Festival for people to get passes, to get individual tickets.
StonyBrookFilmFestival.com, all one word. You can buy individual movie tickets for, I think the only film that's actually sold out right now is opening night. So if you want to get, I know Shanghai Calling, the film we have Saturday night, the Chinese, the American film about the Chinese, lawyer going out to China to try and bring his Chinese background there. If you want
to join me for the Doc Pomus film,
absolutely,
on Monday.
There are tickets available, and passes still available. Also, you can buy them online or at the box office at calling 632.
Fantastic. So 631-632-6901 for opening night. And Alan INKLES, thank you so much for joining us. This is a nice little tradition we have going, and always looking forward to the films at the film festival. And we'll see you at the movies, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Finn.